TV saying, why did you say that?
You know, here in the United States, we've had a lot of riots on campuses.
John Lennon was a truly massive figure in the world of music and in culture as a whole. The effect he had was felt deeply by a huge number of his fellow musicians. Many artists have talked about how much they admired and loved him. They respected him as an amazing songwriter, as someone who bravely pushed for change, and often as a good friend. Today, we're going to explore the stories of 6 well-known musicians who openly shared their deep affection, respect, and love for John Lennon. 1. Elton John.
And we got on like a house on fire because I'm very naughty as well.
Kicking off our list is someone who shared not just a stage, but also a deep, personal friendship with John Lennon, especially during a lively and important time in the mid-1970s, the one and only Elton John. Their friendship became particularly close when Lennon was living in the United States. Elton John, already a huge star himself, and John Lennon, a former Beatle navigating his solo career and personal life, found a real connection. This wasn't just 2 famous people hanging out, it was a genuine bond.
Well, it's very bittersweet. I mean, the record was about the death of Princess Diana, and I'd rather not be holding it. I'd rather her still be alive, and we wouldn't have to go through all this.
One of the most famous stories of their friendship involves a bet. Lennon had apparently told Elton that if their collaboration on Elton's song Whatever Gets You Through the Night, which featured Lennon on guitar and vocals, went to #1 on the charts, Lennon would have to overcome his nervousness about performing live and join Elton on stage.
It's funny, I remember I was out in LA with Leon when Elton John came to America for his...
Sure enough, the song hit the top spot, and John Lennon, true to his word, made a surprise guest appearance at Elton John's concert at Madison Square Garden in New York City on Thanksgiving night, 1974. This performance was incredibly special. It was the last time John Lennon would ever play a major live show. For the fans there that night, it was an unforgettable moment, seeing these 2 music giants together. They played Whatever Gets You Through the Night, along with Beatles classics Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which Elton had recently covered with Lennon's help, and I Saw Her Standing There. The excitement in the arena was apparently off the charts. Their deep bond extended far beyond just making music together or sharing historic stage moments. John and Yoko Ono trusted Elton John so much that they chose him for a very special and personal role in their son Sean's life. They named Elton as Sean Lennon's godfather. This is a role of great personal meaning, usually given only to the closest, most trusted friends or family members. It clearly showed the profound level of affection and reliability that John and Yoko felt Elton possessed. It spoke volumes about the depth of their friendship. Elton John has often talked about Lennon's amazing qualities. He remembered Lennon's incredible wit, his sharp intelligence that was always evident in his conversations and his lyrics, and a genuine kindness that perhaps wasn't always seen by the general public. When John Lennon was tragically eliminated in 1980, Elton John was, like millions around the world, deeply devastated. He expressed his grief and his love for his friend through his music, writing the beautiful and heartfelt tribute song, Empty Garden, Hey, Hey, Johnny.
We're crippled and we're dead. God.
The lyrics of that song vividly capture the sense of loss and the emptiness left behind, with Elton singing about a garden where a friend used to play. It remains one of Elton's most moving songs and a powerful testament to a cherished friendship. Elton John's connection with John Lennon was built on warm, genuine friendship, shared laughter, and unforgettable moments in the bright lights of the music world. But the next artist we'll discuss found a kind of spiritual brother in Lennon's daring and fearless approach to art and to life itself. 2. David Bowie.
And next minute he says, "Hello, John, I'm doing the Cross the Universe. Do you want to come on down?"
Another true icon of fearless creativity and constant reinvention, David Bowie looked towards John Lennon with an enormous amount of respect and admiration. Bowie, who himself was always pushing boundaries and changing his musical style and image, saw in Lennon a true artistic pioneer, someone who wasn't afraid to take risks and challenge expectations. He deeply admired John Lennon's unwavering artistic integrity, his commitment to making the music and art that he believed in, regardless of whether it was popular or commercially safe.
And I've always just seemed to collect personalities, ideas. I have a hodgepodge philosophy, which really is.
Bowie also deeply respected Lennon's fearless creativity, his willingness to experiment with different sounds, different ideas, and different ways of expressing himself. This really resonated with Bowie, who built his own legendary career on those very same principles of artistic adventure.
I tried to cram in every bloody piece of information that I had at my fingertips at that particular time.
The two musical giants didn't just admire each other from a distance, they also got the chance to work together. In 1975, John Lennon and David Bowie collaborated on the hit song Fame. The story of how Fame came to be is a great example of spontaneous creativity. It reportedly grew out of a jam session in the studio. Lennon was visiting, and he started playing a guitar riff that Bowie and his band then built upon. Lennon also contributed backing vocals and the song's title. The result was a funky, cynical, and incredibly catchy track that became Bowie's first #1 hit in the United States. The song itself, with its sharp look at the downsides of being famous, seemed to reflect the intelligent and often critical viewpoints of both artists.
Like going to the edge of a cliff and then jumping and opening to get to the other side.
I like that.
David Bowie often spoke very highly of John Lennon's sharp and quick intellect. He recognized Lennon as someone with a brilliant mind, capable of deep thought and witty commentary on the world. Beyond his intelligence, Bowie was also profoundly influenced by what he described as Lennon's incredible sense of freedom. This likely referred to Lennon's willingness to break rules, to speak his mind even when it was controversial, and to live life on his own terms. For an artist like Bowie, who was constantly exploring new identities and artistic expressions, this kind of freedom would have been incredibly inspiring. Bowie once referred to Lennon as a king, a title that showed the immense respect he had for him as a leading figure in music and culture.
She doesn't talk much, she doesn't. I don't think we were never that close particularly. We have an understanding.
He saw Lennon not just as a great songwriter, but as someone who had a major impact on his own approach to making music and living his life. The connection between these two artists was a meeting of brilliant, innovative minds, each recognizing the other's unique genius and contribution to the world. Lennon's example of artistic courage undoubtedly helped pave the way for other artists like Bowie to be equally bold. David Bowie's admiration was clearly for a fellow king of artistic innovation and someone who embodied a spirit of creative freedom. But our next musician's intense devotion is a more raw, almost disciple-like reverence for John Lennon's unmistakable rock and roll attitude and his whole way of being. 3. Liam Gallagher.
I was tripping at the time, at my mate's house, and then I think I bumped into John Lennon on the Cosmic.
If we jump forward a generation from the time of Lennon's major collaborations, we find an artist whose passionate adoration for John Lennon is practically a fundamental part of his public image, and, by all accounts, his private life too. That artist is the former frontman of the hugely successful British band Oasis, Liam Gallagher. Liam Gallagher is famously and completely without apology a deeply devoted fan of John Lennon. He has, on countless occasions throughout his career, named John Lennon as his ultimate hero, his biggest inspiration, and a primary influence on his own music, his singing style, and even his personal fashion sense.
Kanye West, no chance. Cardi B, not sure, but I don't know much about her.
His reverence for Lennon isn't just a casual mention. It's a core part of who Liam Gallagher is as a rock and roll star. He often speaks about Lennon with a kind of raw, unfiltered passion that leaves no doubt about the depth of his feelings. He particularly admires Lennon's distinctive attitude, that blend of toughness, wit, vulnerability, and rebellious spirit that made Lennon such a unique and compelling figure. Gallagher also frequently praises Lennon's iconic vocal style, which could range from a powerful rock and roll snarl to a tender melodic croon. And of course, he deeply admires Lennon's songwriting, which produced so many timeless and beloved songs. For Liam Gallagher, John Lennon represents the absolute pinnacle of rock and roll authenticity and cool. You can clearly hear the influence of the Beatles, and specifically John Lennon, in much of Oasis's music. Their stadium-filling anthems often had a melodic sensibility and a certain swagger that harked back to the best of British rock from the 1960s. Liam's own vocal delivery, with its characteristic Mancunian drawl and often confrontational edge, has often been compared to Lennon's more aggressive vocal moments. Beyond the music, Gallagher has also adopted some of Lennon's stylistic trademarks, like the round glasses and certain types of jackets.
And if it goes number one, it goes number one. If it goes number four, it goes number four. I don't care.
Further cementing his image as a devoted follower. This isn't just a superficial imitation for Liam. It seems to come from a genuine and profound connection to what he feels Lennon stood for: honesty, standing up for your beliefs, and not being afraid to be yourself, even if it rubs some people the wrong way. His public statements about Lennon are often filled with colorful language and an almost religious fervor, highlighting how much Lennon's music and persona shaped his own identity as a musician and as a person. For Liam Gallagher, John Lennon isn't just a musician to be admired. He's more like a spiritual guide, the ultimate rock and roll icon.
As Liam Gallagher storms out on Oasis on the eve of the phenomenally successful group's American...
Liam Gallagher wears his profound Lennon worship on his sleeve like a proud badge of honor. But even legendary figures from the heavier, harder side of the rock spectrum were also deeply and profoundly touched by the initial musical earthquake that John Lennon and the Beatles set off. 4. Ozzy Osbourne. Coming from the world of heavy metal, a style of music that might seem many miles away from the early pop songs of the Beatles, we find a surprisingly heartfelt and passionate admission of deep love and admiration for John Lennon. This comes from none other than the Prince of Darkness himself, the iconic frontman of the pioneering heavy metal band Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne. While Black Sabbath forged a sound that was dark, heavy, and loud, laying the groundwork for entire genres of metal music, Ozzy's own musical roots and earliest inspirations were firmly planted in the music of the 1960s, especially the Beatles. Ozzy has been very open and enthusiastic about his early fandom. He has famously stated, "I was a Beatle maniac. I loved John Lennon." This wasn't just a passing interest for young Ozzy growing up in industrial Birmingham, England.
Was in fact completely covered. The walls, ceilings, doors, any Beatle pictures were stuck on my wall.
The Beatles were a phenomenon that changed his world, as they did for so many others of his generation. He, like countless teenagers at the time, was completely swept up in Beatlemania. The music, the style, the attitude, it all had a massive impact on him. Ozzy has spoken about how deeply John Lennon's death in 1980 affected him, emphasizing the personal sense of loss he felt, even though he didn't know Lennon personally in the way that Elton John or Harry Nilson did. For Ozzy, Lennon was a hero from afar, a figure whose music had provided a soundtrack to his youth and had helped shape his own dreams of becoming a musician. He admired Lennon's incredible music, of course, but also his distinct persona.
Oh, bloody hell. Hello, darling. How you doing? All right, lovely, yeah.
That mix of intelligence, rebellion, and wit. Lennon played a very significant role in shaping Ozzy's own outlook on music and what it meant to be a rock star. Even though the music Ozzy would go on to create with Black Sabbath was vastly different in tone and texture from Lennon's work, the initial spark of inspiration and the idea that music could be a powerful force came in part from his early love for the Beatles and John Lennon. It shows that Lennon's influence wasn't confined to artists who sounded like him. His impact was much broader. inspiring people across many different musical genres to pick up instruments and express themselves. For Ozzy, Lennon was more than just a Beatle. He was a fundamental reason he got into music in the first place. The next musician on our special list shared an incredibly close, sometimes famously wild, and profoundly deep personal bond with John, a true friendship. 5. Harry Nilson. When people talk about John Lennon's closest and most cherished friends,
I like to say I was a very close friend. I wasn't a very close friend. No one was a very close friend to John other than the Beatles.
especially during his eventful and sometimes turbulent mid-1970s period, particularly when he was living in Los Angeles for a time, often referred to as his Lost Weekend era, though it lasted longer than a weekend, one name consistently and prominently rises to the very top of that list: the highly talented and unique singer-songwriter Harry Nilson. Their bond was famously tight, almost legendary in music circles. It was a friendship marked by periods of intense camaraderie, a shared sense of humor, a mutual understanding, and sometimes, admittedly, some wild and notorious escapades.
And I didn't know who it was because it was a guy who was literally 3 times the size of the person I thought Harry Nilson would be.
But beneath any of the headline-grabbing antics, there was a foundation of genuine, deep mutual affection that went far beyond just their shared musical endeavors or their celebrity status. Harry Nilson, known for his own incredible multi-octave voice and his wonderfully eclectic songwriting, penning hits like Everybody's Talkin' and Without You, found a true kindred spirit in John Lennon, and Lennon clearly felt the same way about Nilson. Their friendship wasn't just about socializing, it also extended into artistic collaboration. Most notably, John Lennon actually produced Harry Nilson's 1974 album, Pussycats. This was a significant project, undertaken during that Lost Weekend period when Lennon was separated from Yoko Ono. Lennon took the producer's role very seriously, and the album, while perhaps reflecting the chaotic times in which it was made, stands as a testament to their working relationship and Lennon's abilities as a producer for another artist. It showed a level of trust and respect between them that allowed Lennon to guide Nilson's project. They were often seen together during this time, and their adventures, both good and bad, became part of rock and roll lore. But those stories, while sometimes sensational, often overshadowed the very real and loyal friendship that underpinned their connection. They understood each other's creative processes, their struggles with fame, and perhaps even the more vulnerable sides that they didn't show to the wider world. This was more than just a casual acquaintance. It was a deep, brotherly bond. The profound personal connection they shared was made tragically clear when John Lennon was eliminated. Harry Nilson was utterly devastated by Lennon's death. This wasn't just the sadness of a fan or even of a colleague. It was the deep, heart-wrenching grief of someone who had lost one of their closest and dearest friends. Nilson reportedly never truly got over the loss. He became involved in gun control advocacy in the years that followed, and his reaction was a powerful testament to the immense personal impact Lennon had on his life. Their friendship was a significant chapter for both men, a period of intense connection, creativity, and shared experiences, highlighting a softer, more loyal side of Lennon, often seen by his inner circle. Harry Nilson's remarkable bond with John Lennon was undeniably one of deep, almost brotherly friendship. But another legendary rock frontman, known for his own spectacular theatrical genius and incredible vocal power, was also an admirer of him. 6. Freddie Mercury.
Living or dead, the only person I wish I had met was John Lennon.
Concluding our list of musicians who deeply loved and admired John Lennon is a voice that itself became absolutely legendary in the annals of rock music, the unforgettable and iconic Freddie Mercury, the flamboyant and incredibly talented frontman of the monumental British band Queen. Freddie Mercury, known for his astonishing vocal range, his dynamic stage presence, and his own brilliant songwriting, held John Lennon in very high regard. He respected Lennon not only as a fellow musician who had achieved incredible global success, but also as a songwriter of immense skill and as a figure who had profoundly changed popular music. When John Lennon was tragically eliminated, Freddie Mercury, like so many others in the music world and beyond, was notably and deeply moved by his death. It was a loss that resonated strongly with him, as it did with anyone who understood the magnitude of Lennon's contribution.
I don't know, I'm just me, I'm just me. I'm very disorganized at times, I'm organized at times, and...
Queen, as a band, decided to pay a direct and heartfelt tribute to John Lennon through their music. They penned the song Life is Real, Song for Lennon, which was released on their 1982 album Hot Space. This track stands as a clear and poignant expression of their feelings. The song itself is stylistically reminiscent of some of Lennon's own balladry, with a focus on piano and emotional vocals. The lyrics of Life is Real capture a raw sense of personal loss and a deep admiration for Lennon's artistry and his overall impact on the world. It doesn't shy away from the pain of his absence, and it reflects Freddie Mercury's and Queen's genuine respect for a fellow pioneer in music, someone who had helped to pave the way for bands like Queen to also experiment and reach global audiences.
Kind of like each other, and we like the music we make. That's basically it, I mean.
While Freddie Mercury and John Lennon came from slightly different eras of British rock, with Lennon being part of the initial 1960s British invasion and Mercury leading Queen's rise in the 1970s and 80s, there was a shared understanding of what it meant to be a frontman of a hugely influential band, a songwriter, and a public figure. Mercury, who himself was a master of crafting memorable melodies and powerful lyrics, would have undoubtedly recognized and appreciated those same qualities in Lennon's vast body of work. The tribute song from Queen serves as a lasting reminder of the high esteem in which one rock legend held another. The love and admiration these six musicians, and countless others, felt for John Lennon highlight the incredible and varied ways he touched people's lives. As a friend, an inspiration,
Elton and I have been friends for a long time, but we've actually sort of...
a hero, and a revolutionary artist. His music and his message continue to resonate, and the memories shared by those who knew him and loved him paint a picture of a complex, brilliant, and deeply human individual. What are your favorite John Lennon songs, or which of his qualities do you admire most? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the positive connections in music history, please give this video a like and subscribe for more.